Mr. Clerk, you know what? They have to fix the clock.
Mine. The little one was up there crying because you left.
She was?
They crying. She got a little bad out.
I know. I had to bring her. She out sick today. My daughter.
Oh.
Yeah. So she upstairs.
We are on air.
Sorry, I need because she was out yesterday too.
Here I go.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Newark Municipal Council special meeting and conference meeting. Madam President, in accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice has been provided to the Star Ledger, the Jersey Journal, and to the public at large establishing the date, time, and location of this meeting. May I have a roll call of those present, please?
Present. Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Madam President, on the agenda, 6 PSNFA, ordinance on public reading, second hearing and final passage is an ordinance authorizing the following for the Port Authority, for the Port Street corridor. The City of Newark authorizes the Port Authority of the Newark, New York, and New Jersey to the right to acquire by condemnation parcels A1 through A7 upon acquisition and completion of the construction by the Port Authority for the Port Street corridor. The city is authorized to accept parcels A1 through A7. The city is authorized to execute the attached license agreement and utilities agreement. Is there anyone present that wishes to be heard on this ordinance?
No one appearing, Mr. Clerk.
No one appearing. Motion to close the public hearing and adopt. Council of the whole.
Roll call.
Present. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Resolutions. Resolution 7R2A is an authorizing resolution for the Department of Economic and Housing Development for the private sale and redevelopment to build a 3-family house for sale.
Sponsor.
Roll call.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
7R2B is an authorizing resolution for the Department of Economic and Housing Development for professional services contract to provide on-call environmental consulting and management. 2C is an authorizing resolution for the Department of Economic and Housing Development for the investigation of an area in need of redevelopment. These are East 1 and Eastern Central Ward properties. 2D is a ratifying, authorizing, and amending resolution for the Department of Economic and Housing Development for professional services contract, the First Amendment to the agreement to provide professional services as planning consultants to increase the contract amount by $70,000. 2E is a authorizing resolution for the Department of Economic and Housing Development for a endorsing resolution supporting the filing of an application to the New Jersey Department of Transportation for transit village designation.
Sponsor.
Second. Mr. Clerk, or the BA, a couple of people asked me yesterday when I returned, what's a transit village designation? And I was honest with them. I said I had not had a chance to look. So just in case there are others in our community who don't know what the transit village designation means, could we get a quick explanation? You know I haven't read anything.
Got it. Oh, thank you. Good morning, Council President. Eric Pennington, Business Administrator. I can give a brief lay definition. With areas or within a certain proximity to transit hubs such as Penn Station or the Broad Street Station, the designation as a transit village enables that area to be eligible for additional funding, for transportation, and we also use it with respect to the density requirement for vehicles, parking spaces for vehicles and new developments as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Council of the whole with the exception of those with sponsors. Roll call.
I do believe yes, I'm sorry. I'm jet lagged.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
7R2F is a ratifying authorizing resolution for the Department of Economic and Housing Development for a professional services contract to provide legal defense services to the City Office of Tenant Legal Services for low-income tenants facing eviction.
Madam President,
Yes, Councilwoman Ramos.
could the BA just address how many firms applied for this particular contract as a result of the RFQ, and why are we recommending this particular firm?
Good morning, Councilman Ramos. I must confess, I was responding to a text and I didn't hear the issue. If you could give me that again.
It states that there was an RFQ for this,
Which one are we talking about? I don't know.
JOLA and JOLA, Legal Defense Services for the Office of Tenant Legal Services.
Oh, you have that?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Allison Ladd, Director of Economic and Housing Development. Regarding the question on the RFQ, this RFQ was released earlier this year. We did receive 2 respondents, and we found both responsive, and we wanted to advance both contracts. You're seeing one today, and you'll see a second one in the future. This will expand our contracts for legal services from 1 to 3. That'll help us with residents who are facing eviction. The 3, all told, the 3 consultant firms will allow us to reach more residents in the city of Newark. And additionally, we needed to expand, as council approved last fall, because one of our current contractors needed the ability to expand reach so that we could help families that may have immigration status concerns.
Any questions? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Council of the whole.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
7R2G is an authorizing resolution for the Department of Economic and Housing Development for the private sale and redevelopment to expand the existing facilities by expanding the funeral chapel and providing additional parking. Council of the whole?
Sponsor. Sponsor.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
7R12A is an authorizing resolution for the water sewer utilities for a bid contract for Phase 7A of the lead service line replacement contract. 12B is a authorizing resolution for the water sewer utilities for professional services contract to provide software model lead service line program. Through 7R12B, Council of the whole to adopt.
Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
To the added starter page. 7R4A is a ratifying authorizing resolution for the Department of Finance for professional services contract to provide financial advisory services. Council of the whole?
Oh, yes, council as a whole.
Yes.
Abstain. Yes.
Abstain.
Yes.
Abstain.
Yes.
Fails to adopt.
Yes.
7R12C is a authorizing resolution for the water sewer utilities for bid contract for Phase 6A, the lead service line replacement. 12D is a authorizing resolution for the water sewer utility for a bid contract for Phase 8A of the lead service line replacement program. Through 7R12D, Council of the Whole.
Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Madam President,
Yes, Councilman Ramos.
just a quick question about 7R12B, the professional service contract for the software module. Could someone just give us a summary of what this is? I don't know if anybody's here from the Water Department, or maybe the administrator can answer that question.
Johnny Lopez, Principal Engineer, Water and Sewer Department. This contract, not written by me, but the person that put it together is not here today, so I'm covering for her. I believe it was mandated by the state to provide some software to our website, which is run currently by CDN Smith, that provides information to the lead service line replacement. A lot of the information that we pick up from the lines that we do on the during our jobs when we replace the lines, and also when we do sampling, gets pulled into all that data into the website. And this contract, they're supposed to go through the data and put it together for us. And I can give you a better
So
breakdown
is
once I
this
have the person.
is this a system that you guys set up where you can type in an address and it'll tell you what the status is of the replacement? Or is this a different software system where you have to report information to the state and the feds based on the replacement program?
Correct, it's a different information, and everything gets also reported to the state. And I can put something together for you once I have.
And that would be helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
And Mr. B.A., this comes out of the bond, the $1 million that is being invested in this? I'm talking about the software that's needed for the lead service, part of the lead service line replacement. So this does come out of the bond. Thank you.
Do you want to respond at all? Mr. BA, someone did ask.
Yes, Eric Pennington, Business Administrator. With respect to Councilman Ramos's question, the answer is yes. But while I have the floor, I would request the indulgence of the council to address the added starter regarding the financial advisor that did not pass. I think there were 4 yes votes and 4 abstentions, or 3 abstentions. This would leave the city without a financial advisor at this time, and I'm not sure whether or not there's information I could provide to those members who abstained and reconsider their vote so that we could move forward with several items, not the least of which is all of the RDAs that are pending in EHD have to have an evaluation by a financial advisor. Any development that the city attempts to undertake also requires a financial advisor to weigh in on the efficacy of a particular financial model. The FA is necessary for any significant expenditure by the city, and we have no one under contract at the moment. And I would request that at least one of the abstainers reconsider.
Councilman James.
Is NW Financial no longer an advisor to us?
Their contract ends at the end of this month. And I'm happy to go into executive session and discuss why. I did so once before, but I'm happy to do so again.
Yeah, and Madam President, yeah, my only question was regarding the process that gets us to this point. You know,
Right.
my understanding is that the department did have an RFP process. For whatever reason, the results that were generated as a result of that process, you know, was disregarded. You claimed that there was a technical issue with that particular process. I would just like to get something in writing that summarizes what happened, because typically when we do a competitive process, for the department or the administration to disregard the outcome, there has to be, reason, right?
Sure.
And I would just like to have that from your office in writing. And then, what got us to the point where you're recommending these three entities? There was one at the last council meeting, and now there's a Public Resource Advisory Group, and from my understanding, there's going to be a third financial services company.
Correct.
So I think if you kind of lay that out, and you went over it quickly, I want to, like with everything else, I'd like to see it in writing. I would be more comfortable in voting for it.
Sure, I'm happy to put it in writing. Your characterization that I went over quickly, I apologize. I'm happy to go over it in as much detail as you like, particularly right now, and follow up in writing so that I can assuage any of your concerns with respect to whether or not the process was a fair process. I will say in a very shorthand way, the RFP is not what is driving this particular process anymore. This is a non-fair and open process, which is allowed for professional services, which these firms are part of. It does happen, though, that the three firms that were selected initially with the technically deficient RFP are the firms that are moving forward on this non-fair and open process as well. Since it seems that people want information about NW Financial and open session, I'll tell you that they made a calculation error, an arithmetic calculation error that cost the city in excess of $1 million, and a financial advisor, supposedly of that caliber, should not make that kind of mistake, ever. And I'm hesitant to reward them for that. If you insist that we go forward with NW Financial given that kind of error, certainly we reconsider that. The other is that they were, one of their partners was indicted for engaging in improper sale of bonds, which essentially was a sale of derivatives, which for municipalities is improper. And they were selling bonds at a discounted rate, and this particular partner then was reselling them and pocketing the profits. The SEC took away his license and indicted that individual. This is one of NW Financial's partners. I'm uncomfortable using a firm under those circumstances. Again, if there's anybody in the council who insists that we use them, please put that in writing to me, and I'll reconsider that.
Madam President, yeah, I just take a little bit of offense to, and I respect and like the BA a lot, to insinuate that anyone up here would
I'm not insinuating anything.
champion
I apologize.
a particular company. My concern as always, and you could, extract my comments, that hundreds of meetings that I've had the privilege of participating, and my concern always is process.
Sure.
Right? And I can back up
Fair.
comments with process, but to insinuate that any council member up here would be championing a particular vendor, especially if you have alleged, the things that you alleged on the record today, and I think it's a little bit unfair.
Fair enough, and I want to be clear that I'm not insinuating any particular council member. I'm insinuating that council may not have all the information. That's what I'm insinuating, and it's not an allegation. The SEC had a hearing, a determination, a due process finding.
With all due respect, Eric, we're not in that world, so we wouldn't know. If you have
Understand.
information, regarding a particular vendor, I think it's your obligation to share it.
Sure.
And again, at no point did I ask about NW Financial. I think our concern has been about the process.
That's fine. That part is fine. I think the process has been followed appropriately. The rules that allow for us to retain professional services firms, accountants, financial advisors, lawyers, engineers, is consistent with the process that was used here. We did not deviate from that process. And given that this is an allowable process by the state of New Jersey, recommended by the League of Municipalities, and used by this body several other times, I think the process is appropriate. If there's a particular issue with a particular one of these vendors, I'm happy to address that, just as I did with NW Financial. I want to make sure that you have all the information that you need. But we are crippled at the moment without having a qualified financial advisor on board.
Mr. BA,
Councilman James.
Mr. BA, my concern is we're now going to be going from one financial advisor to 3.
Yes.
How is that going to be broken down? There may be 3 different companies, 3 different strategies on advising as far as financial concerns. Which do we use? When do we use one and not number 3? Is that opening us to turmoil?
No, I think it's a great question. We have probably, I'll use this as an analogy, maybe 20 law firms or more who represent the city, and they have various areas of expertise. And we have a competent corporation counsel, 2 extraordinarily competent first assistants, and we rely upon them to give us advice as to which of the law firms that we use. Similarly, we have an extraordinarily competent and qualified, more than 20-year employee who's our finance director, Danielle Smith. She has working for her a staff of qualified financial people who will also advise us as to which firms we should use at any given time for a particular project. We have a new deputy mayor and director of economic and housing development, which uses these financial advisors probably more than any other department. And she's putting together, has herself, and is putting together an extraordinary staff who will give advice on which of these financial advisors that we use on any given time. It is really eliminates the concern that you may have that one financial advisor is being used as a jack of all trades. It is not a one-size-fits-all scenario, and for years we've had sort of a one-size-fits-all situation. So it improves the opportunity for the city to make sure that it has the most competent, qualified, and most experienced financial advisor for a particular transaction. And there may be an occasion where we use 2 if it's really, really complex.
Madam President?
Yes.
I don't have an issue with reconsideration. I will hold the BA accountable to provide me with what he committed himself to provide me, and I would like, through your chair and the clerk, for his comments regarding, what is it, NW Financial,
yes.
to be extracted and put in writing so that we have a copy of it.
Mr. Clerk, so ordered.
Yes, ma'am.
I second
Thank
the
you,
motion
Mr.
for
Bria.
reconsideration.
Councilman James?
I second the motion for reconsideration.
Roll call
Mr.
to
Clerk,
reconsider.
roll call for reconsideration.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Clerk,
Council of the whole to adopt?
roll call to adopt.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Back to the regular agenda, we are on page 11. 8A is an ordinance amending Title 41 zoning and land use regulations. This to authorize a release of performance guarantee posted with the City of Newark to be released administratively.
Council as whole.
Madam President,
Yes, Council.
someone
Ramos.
explain, what this is?
Right now, Councilman, the process that we are using to release performance bonds from construction projects, for example, is the engineering department certifies that the work has been done, and the planning board then requests that the bond be released. However, the requirement is that there then be a resolution of the council. This would simply allow the process as it exists to continue, and we would be able to administratively release the performance bond once we had all of the certification that the work had indeed been done.
Okay, thank you.
Council of the
Yes.
whole to advance to first reading?
Yes.
Roll call to advance.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Madam President,
Yes, Councilman Ramos.
could we ask through your chair and the clerk from the BA a update on the lead service line replacement process? We constantly authorize additional funding for these various companies that are performing the work. out in the community. So I would like to know, how many lines have been replaced by each vendor, and what has been the total amount that has been authorized for each vendor based on the work that's been completed.
I do not see the director.
Something similar to what the VA did recently.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Council President, just in response to Councilman Amador, you meant similar to what Melvin Waldrop prepared before? Yes, sir.
Just an update.
Thank you.
Council of the whole to adjourn the voting portion of this meeting?
Roll call to adjourn. The voting part.
Yes.
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 Yes. Mr. Clerk, before we move on, is it possible for someone to reach out to the director? I have a question for him in terms of process.
Which department?
Can we,
Which director?
Which department?
the water,
Water sewer?
yes, water department. He's not present. I don't see anyone.
I think Johnny said that he's not here too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's here.
He's here.
Oh, he just walks in.
He must have been watching.
Were you watching?
It's actually coming in.
He's streaming in the hall.
Good morning, Kareem Adeem, Director, Department of Water and Sewer Utilities.
Yes, I do have a question. Councilman Quintana and I were at the National League of Cities. In fact, he's still there. He's been appointed to a very important position. But we were talking, and do we have, at least as close to completion, a number that we have accomplished or completed?
Yes,
And,
complete as in, when you say complete, as in the lead service project? So today, as of today, we've completed 8,205 services. Phase 1, we're wrapping it up. That was the initial 1,500 services between Roman, E.G. Roman, and Pacific. Pacific completed about, in Phase 1, they did about 520. Roman did about 1,010 of Phase 1. Phase 2 has just started. Underground utilities has completed a little over 200 for Phase 2. Roman about 20. There's 3 contracts coming before you today to award some future phases. Of the emergency work, one second. Of the emergency work, Roman has completed 2,970, and Montana has completed 2,922. All other contracts are pending, waiting to be awarded.
thank you so much for the information. I just got back last night, and I received an email from, I guess, someone who considers them a water expert, lead service line expert, and I said I would get that information. Is it possible for you to put it in writing so that I can have it and I'll be able to pass it on? In addition, I brought you a gift. Back in the day when lead service line conversations were slim to none, a book was written by one of the past presidents of the National League of Cities, He is still very active. He is now involved, and he's written a new book. And I purchased a copy for you. Not that you need to have someone else tell you what to do, but it's a good read.
I don't know it all. I'll read it.
Yes, yes. So I'll have this. You can get it after the meeting.
I just want to
Somebody-
reiterate, Council President, you said a milestone on Friday. It'll be our one-year anniversary when we did groundbreaking on Ridge Street, and we also did on the North Ward, and we did groundbreaking on Eastern Parkway in the west, and on Keir Avenue in the south. So the 13th, which is this Friday, and we did groundbreaking on the east. I think the street was Chestnut or either Gothard. But on the 13th, which is Friday, it would be our one-year anniversary. We've probably will be pushing close to 9,000 lead services. Flint, Michigan started 5 years ago, and they have yet to reach a little over 8,600 services in 5 years.
Congratulations to you and your team.
Well, it's not a thank you, but that congratulations goes to the mayor, the city council, and the administration, right? The county executive and the state, collaborating together to get this project done and remove lead services throughout the whole city. Just want to thank everybody.
Any other comments or questions for the director?
I just want to make one comment.
Yes, Councilwoman.
I just want to tell residents that may be watching that the city does send out updates weekly for the lead service line. It's available via social media, so anybody can get that. And it's on our website, too, so you can get that information weekly to see how the city is progressing. I know that's how I share the information via social media. So the communication department does send that out weekly to residents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are now in the conference meeting.
Yeah, Madam President.
Yes.
I just want to thank the Director of Engineering. I know at the last meeting I had requested some information regarding this sewer rate study, and they did contact my office with some more information, and I had suggested that they submit something in writing for the council to review, which they did. So usually we don't get that kind of immediate feedback from department head. So I just want to say thank you through your chair and the BA to Director Scott.
Director? Thank you. Mr. Clerk, back to...
In keeping with the discussion that the councilman just started, Robert Thomas from the Department of Engineering is here to address any questions for the document that we put in your folders, which the councilman was speaking of. That's
Mr. Thomas?
Robert.
There he is.
If there are any questions for the council.
Hi, good morning, Robert Thomas, Department of Engineering. Yes, I'm just here to answer any questions you guys might have. As Councilman Ramos had mentioned, some information was provided to the council to review. I guess in short, this is a very short contract that you guys adopted last week, and it's just to do some additional preliminary work related to the stormwater utility feasibility study that we're working on right now with water and sewer. And so we really just want to do this work so that we can get a strong understanding of exactly what the impact to the city would be if the city were to create a stormwater utility. And this should really help us get a strong understanding of what that impact would be.
Any questions for...
Madam President?
Yes.
Potential contributors to, stormwater utility are entities that currently do not pay into our current system, correct?
Yes,
We're
correct.
talking about owners of parking lots, some governmental buildings. Is that a correct assessment on my part?
Yes, that's correct. So essentially how the rates are structured right now is that for the conveyance of stormwater, it's built into sewer rates. And so essentially what this analysis is doing, the larger analysis, is to kind of look at the city as a whole and determine, who is not paying, and if they were to pay, what that would do to the entire city in terms of the rate base.
So is it a fair assessment to say that the residential property owners have been kind of subsidizing this for years,
Yes.
And this would hopefully level out the playing field a little bit?
Yes, exactly. While also giving water and sewer the resources that they need to really manage the conveyance of the water appropriately. So, they're working on the long-term control plan right now. That is another requirement of the city. And so, as we're looking to make additional improvements to the city, we want to make sure that, there's an equitable, approach to the costs for it.
Any other questions for Mr. Thomas? Thank you.
All right, thanks.
The next item on the agenda is a discussion with the code enforcement. Mr. McDonald, if you'll come to the microphone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thomas McDonald, Department of Engineering, Manager of Code Enforcement.
Mr. McDonald, the question, the reason that the council has asked you to come forward is to have a discussion with you about the process that your department is using and the problems that we're seeing when the violations come to court.
Yes. I prepared a document for the council to review. If it can be shared with the council members. With regards to the process of court reporting on behalf of this division, first and foremost, our goal is abatement, which is a word that people seem to forget about often. When in fact a tenant calls and makes a complaint about no heat, we are obligated by law to provide a complaint, whether it be a notice form or a court complaint for the no heated issue. However, our job is to stay with that complaint and get compliance. It's incredible to believe that a tenant can be left in a cold and some temperatures when they fall certainly below 20 degrees or so, and the inspector goes out, writes a court complaint, and walks away and leaves the tenant in the same condition of which they were left. Our job is to reach out to owners and to make every effort to abate a condition. The court complaint is issued at the same time just for the sake of processing it as required by law. So I've attached two documents. The first document is a court ticket, which is something that is handwritten by the officer and assigned or issued to the court for processing. The second document is something called a ECDR. Our officers are now using electronic devices so that we're operating quicker so that we can see what each one is doing. That report is forwarded over to the state. The state processes a court complaint. The matter moves before the court. The court has 45 days pursuant to the law to come up with a resolution from the time that the complaint is issued or assigned. It is forwarded to the court with all the attachments as required. The most important thing is proof of service, which was a problem for quite a while with our division. Our mail is sent out regular and certified. However, we do get a lot of that mail returned because there are a lot of corporations or LLCs that currently own these properties. So therefore, we have moved forward with going out into other municipalities and hand-serving the documents so that we do have proof of service when we get to the court.
Madam President.
Yes.
I want to thank Mr. McDonald for being, responsive. I often call him on the weekends, and he's always someone that's picks up his phone or he calls you back. I think for us, we're just trying to get a better understanding as to why it appears that, I'll give you an example of a property that you're familiar with, I'm familiar with. We both visited the site some years ago along with Director Scott, and that's Grafton Avenue and Highland. It's a one-family home. in the historic district. It's been converted into a legal construction company, and all you have to do is drive by there. You know, you see construction equipment parked in the rear lot of the property, in front of the property, and you know, I remember some years back that your folks took the owner to court. There was a summons for the owner's arrest, and like 2.5 years later, it still looks the same. I'm still getting the same complaints from neighbors. So I'm trying to understand, like, because I know you did your job. Like, where was the lapse here? Like, how does this property 2.5 years later still operate as a construction company and look the way it does?
Well, the issue with that particular case was that once the bench warrant was issued, the city had done its job, moving it into the court. A bench warrant was issued. At some point, that owner must have come in before a different court or a different judge, got the warrant recalled, and never returned back to court. You brought it to my attention the other day, and Director Scott and I went back to the property. This time, we're going to hand serve it again. The issue with it is that it is a one-family home, which makes it a little more difficult for us to gain access to. But because of the illegal activity, this route, we've added additional violations to it to strengthen the report, to make it more serious. I believe this matter is being heard on the 19th, if I'm correct, of this month. We've hand-served the owner. The owner did not allow us access. They came out onto the front porch and signed for it when they really didn't want to. And we're going to attempt it one more time, sir. I do apologize for that.
So when you said it was moved previously to a different court, what does that mean? Like, they came in with an attorney and they were able to?
No, when a bench warrant is issued, it is my understanding that the owner or complainant has an opportunity to appear before one of the courts to have the warrant recalled. It's normally rescheduled for a new date, and somewhere in that mix it got past us. But once a warrant is issued, then the police department has the authority to go out and make an arrest, which is something we need to practice a little more throughout the city because people are not taking us seriously.
Question.
So, you want to speak?
I have a couple questions.
Yes, Councilwoman.
So when you guys go out to a respondent complaint and you find that a owner or a business owner, whoever, is in violation of a city ordinance, you write them a ticket, the electronic ticket that you guys do in the system, then you give it to them. How long do they have to respond to the ticket? Like, explain that process to us, because sometimes I hear people say, oh, they have 5 days to do this, to do that, or they got a ticket and they have to pay, or they're going to court. Can you explain the difference and what the actual process is?
Yes, so there is two ways to reach an owner. We have the ability to either issue a notice to abate. A notice means that they get from 24 hours up to 30 days, depending on the situation. So they get a notice to abate the condition. The city then goes back after the time period and does a reinspection, and at that point, it will get either abated, closed out, or it will be moved into the court.
So let me just interject real quick. So you said they get anywhere between 24 hours to 30 days. Who defines how much time they get?
The visiting inspector. The inspector who goes out, they'll come back, and because we are electronic, they do take photos. A supervisor or myself can say that's too much time or not enough time based on the owner, because we do have a lot of owners who do cooperate with us, and if they require additional time to either take out permits or to get a contractor to do the work, we extend that time as long as they're working with us. And in other words, we can just go directly with the court matter. We can move the complaint into the court and let it take its process. We do have a lot of owners now who we have communication with. Our inspectors are sharing phone numbers with owners and contact information with these multiple dwellings. So a lot of them do participate now because they know how serious we are. There was a time frame when we left here on a Friday and we didn't return back until Monday, and they knew that they can get away with it. Now we are making appearances on Sundays and weekends and nights when they don't expect us.
So the 24 hours to 30 days, where are you getting that rule from? Is that something that your office made up as a process, or are you following the city ordinance for that?
City ordinance.
Okay. That's problem number one.
Is that it?
Okay, so the inspector themselves individually are going out, writing the tickets, and then they are determining how much time they give. So it's not like a set thing like with the office. If you say, if people have to address garbage on their property, it's maximum or minimum, shall I say, 3 days is what we're going to do. Like, you don't have anything in writing about that for the inspector, so they're just individually making a determination and then putting that in the report, the notice?
Yes, but the report is reviewed by a supervisor before it moves forward.
Got it, okay. So the supervisor ultimately is the approver?
Correct, and
Okay.
myself. So in the case where an inspector might feel that, okay, I'm going to give them 3 days, based on the information that I review or the photographs, we can say, no, you need to move this right into a court. The court process assists us with regard to issuing liens against the property as well. So they both happen at the same time.
Got it. So not everyone is getting a notice and then having the opportunity to respond. Sometimes if the situations are case by case, if they're more serious than others, then they go straight to court.
Correct.
And once again, that's something that the supervisors decide.
Correct.
Okay. And as far as the ticket process, so everybody is using an electronic ticket. No, you're not writing any of the blue tickets that's in this packet?
No, the blue tickets are issued by DPW inspectors.
Okay. And so when you write the ticket electronically, it automatically goes to the courts, or like how does that work? Then the courts get something on their end about the ticket? Like
Right. So we have a processor in our office who is hooked up to the state system. We write the report. It gets moved over to that processor. He goes into the court system and issues the actual CDR or a complaint with the court date, and all the attachments will get attached, and then it gets forwarded over to the court.
Okay. And I guess I just want to echo again what Councilman Ramos said regarding the breakdown when it gets to the courts. We're obviously having a big issue when your complaint gets forwarded to the courts for processing, and then everything kind of, number one, we don't know what happened because we have to literally, sometimes I even have to send my staff to court on the date if I have it. Sometimes I'll reach out to you and you'll provide the court date for these individuals, and I'll send them, or somebody from your office, will follow up with us to say, sometimes, it's not a routine thing, but they'll say, oh, this is what happened, or whatever the case might be. But the reason why we're trying to, break down the point of what's happening when it gets to the court and getting notified is because people, for some reason, who make the complaints, they think nothing is happening. And sometimes I think nothing is happening too, because then I go back to some of the areas like Councilman Ramos mentioned, and it's the same situations. They're still not abiding to the, city ordinances. It's still the same problem. So it's like, what happened at court? But just to track down that is a full-time job for my staff and for me, because you know how I am. Like, I'm riding, I'm taking pictures, I'm texting you, I'm sending it to the staff. I know code enforcement gets tired of me because there are a lot of people in this city who violate our city every day. And so it is an everyday job. I don't even think, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't even think you have enough staff for this work. I mean, if we really buckled down on code enforcement and gave enough staff there and got everything straightened out with our courts and increased the fines, I mean, your office would pay for itself, because that's how many people in our city are disrespectful. Owners, business owners. I mean, sometimes I say on Monday it's trashy and it looks very bad. By Friday, it's the same way. And the only time they go out to clean up is when we go out there and tell them they have to clean up. There's no routine. And I mean big companies that are in our city. Big establishments, not little ones. These are not like your corner bodegas. These are people who are nationally known, who have businesses here in our city that is constantly dirty, is constant disrespect to us going out. And honestly, something is happening when it gets to the courts. We even get information from people saying, oh, their ticket got thrown out, or, they didn't have to do anything and it never went anywhere. So then people are just back to square one. But I think, people are thinking that, you come out, you do your job, and then nothing happens because they see no changes. And even if you don't notify people about what the actions were, because some things you're not privy to decide, discuss with others, still, if they don't see anything happen, like if the trash or the mattress is still on the front porch of somewhere, then that means nothing happened to them. That's what they think. So that is where the frustration, I think, on my end is, because we continue to do these things, you continue to go out, and then nothing happens. It's just like the whole thing with the security issue. Those buildings that we changed the ordinance for, like those residents that I'm having a meeting with next week, they're pissed. Because we went through all that, we changed the ordinance. We even had somebody come from the North Ward here last week, Richard, who said the same thing. People are still not abiding by what we put in place. The Colonnade, same thing, still one guard. Still one guard. The people like, I thought they were going to go to court. I thought this was going to happen. So I know we're addressing case by case things, but it's in general. Like there's a big issue, and it's like, what do we do to really fix these things and make people do what we're asking them to do? What our laws say here in the city, and so that's my issue. And so I mean, you guys, you respond. You know, I bug you enough. Everybody in your team, they're great. They respond and go out. But it's like, what happens at the courts? So I appreciate you being here today to, you know, discuss to us about what, you know, the process is on your end, but I would like to know what the process is for the courts. That's what we've been asking. Like, I don't even know how you kind of got here again today, because the issue is with the courts when it gets there. We've been asking for the people to come over here and meet. Councilman Ramos has a committee meeting, nobody showed, and still we're back here again today to say what is happening at the court level. What is happening? Why are people tickets getting thrown out? Why is there not a fast process? Those are my questions. But I appreciate you coming today, but once again, it's with the courts.
Thank you. Mr. McDonald, the councilwoman just saved me and saved you from hearing my particular tirade, as you're familiar with, because I agree with everything that has been said by my colleagues. Cleanliness is critical to the attractiveness of a city. I just got back from Washington last night, and what I do whenever I go to a city for a meeting, I look around for the cleanliness of the city. And unfortunately, we don't meet a very high standard, but that's not your fault. To the director who is here, you need to hire at least 50 more people to help you out to keep this city clean, and 50 is probably not enough. So I am going to be bugging the BA that at budget time, not that everybody's particular bailiwick is not important, but I'm going to be begging for a significant increase in the number of your staff. They're overworked and underpaid because they come out at night. They don't observe the 8 to 5 or 9 to 5. So I recognize the efforts of your staff. And when I said to you the other day through a text, I hope you weren't offended. I was up to here, and you know what I'm talking about. So let me ask you this. How many times does someone have to be cited, particularly an illegal rooming house? How many times do they have to be cited before they have to go to court?
They're cited immediately, and if I can take a moment and go back to the very beginning of my conversation, through all of this court reporting and all of these documents, I learned 29 years ago when I started this job that abatement is our key word. And when we lose the focus of getting something abated, whether it's something getting cleaned up or rehabbing of a property that should not be, illegal conversions, all those things are important to us because we all live here. I too pass this garbage and I am offended as well. And I've trained my staff that on our major corridors like Bloomfield Avenue and South Orange Avenue, I believe that when you leave Newark and go into South Orange, you see the immediate change when in fact from the beginning to the end, it should all look the same. So now that the weather is getting better, our focus was really on heat and hot water and the illegal conversions. We are going to be on the road 7 days a week. We have a unique process other than other cities where DPW works closely with us with regard to liens. We're liening a lot of properties throughout the city where owners are absentee or they fail to come to court, and it's so much more than the issuance of a bench warrant. I'm very, very clear with my staff that once we have forwarded that complaint to the court, even we too lose control over what happens to it at that level. So we're reaching out to more owners, and we're delivering more mail. We're leaving the city and actually catching owners at home, and they are saying, oh, we didn't know anything about it, because they're refusing to accept that certified mail. And that's the key factor with regard to any matter going before a judge in the municipal court. Was this person served? And we want to be able to say, yes, they were served. We do have the proof. Let's start issuing more warrants and becoming a little more serious with this as it relates to abatement, because that's our key factor, abatement.
Speaking of a warrant, how much, or what's the fine? What's the fine?
Fines start at $100 per count.
That's no money.
They can go up to $1,000 per count. So
Sorry, say that, you said $1,000.
Right, we're not trying to issue one violation. I try to issue 10 violations so that number escalates and climbs up so people know that we're serious. In some cases, garbage and debris litter on the sidewalk, it's one count, it'll go through the court, and the judge at times will issue between $100 and $1,000 depending on the evidence and or the condition of it. We do want to write complaints every day so that they continuous go to the court and the judges get to know who these people really are. Because a lot of people are hiding behind LLCs, believe me, they are. And it's hard to track those people down.
I have a question.
Well, I just, as I started, Mr. BA, when we do the budget next year, please, I beg you, to consider adding to Mr. McDonald's staff. A city is often judged by its appearance. And I don't know, my colleagues, we all share the same idea and feeling about what our city looks like. I've had people who've come for conferences who said, boy, your city is dirty. I hate that. And so I want to support Councilwoman McIver's recommendation that the courts become more involved and active in making sure that people are not overlooked or, because you're overworked. I really recognize that. But we have to do something about it. It's out of control. Every Sunday that I go to church, somebody says, when are you going to, and I tell them we're doing the best we can. No, we're not, in my opinion. We need to hire the people so that we can, be comfortable with the cleanliness.
Yes, Council President. Eric Pennington, Business Administrator. The administration concurs. We're in the middle of budget development right now, so we expect to present something to the council shortly, and we are taking into consideration the needs of Tommy McDonald, who does an outstanding job. Councilwoman McIver commented on seeing Mr. McDonald out on the weekends. There were several of those weekends I was out there with him, so I know. I met Councilwoman McIver out there, I met Mr. McDonald out there, and so I fully understand that we need more code enforcement people who are as dedicated as Mr. McDonald to get the job done. We will try to reflect that in the budget ask and present to the council sufficient information that will warrant an increased funding for code enforcement, not just for Mr. McDonald's department, but for sanitation as well, to make sure that we have appropriate staff, and we support that.
Question.
Yes.
I just wanted to go back to the fine thing that Council President mentioned about the $100 is the minimum. Is the minimum $100 because that's the state statute that we have it at a minimum 100? Or is that ours? Because I know, for example, we just increased the construction fines, right? The reason being is exactly what you said. It was crazy. You were going out there, I was going out there, Tommy, and people were just being disrespectful to be starting construction on times that we did not allow. But when I saw what they were paying, that was ridiculous. I mean, for a construction company or a developer to pay $100 to $200, they made that at a blink of an eye, like literally from being out there. So we increased the fines up to $2,500. Now we had to keep it at a minimum 100 because that was the state statute. With the increase, we couldn't have the minimum past $100, which is stupid, but that's what we had to do. So I'm just wondering, is the code enforcement fines like that because that's the state statute requirement, the minimum can't be more than 100, or is that just our, our process of that?
There's a couple of ways to answer that as well. We are constrained by the state guidelines, but even though the fine may be from $100 to $1,000, the violation can be on a daily basis. If, for example, you have a mattress on the porch, like you said, and they're found to be found guilty, the court can fine them $1,000, up to $1,000 per day for that violation, not just per event. So what we probably need to do is have training for code enforcement, for the prosecutors, and for the court to make sure that we are maximizing the efficacy of the fines that we do have, and then and also look to the state to see if it makes sense to request an increase. But I think we have sufficient tools in our toolkit right now to make a dent if we use it properly. It also means that we have to have sufficient staff in the courts, and they've requested additional people in the courts. So we're looking at that. We need to make sure that we are prepared, that our code enforcement people, when they go to court, they know how to present the case along with the prosecutor properly. So there's some training that we can do to work on that as well. And
correct. The last thing I'm going to say is, especially, and this is more so to the BA, to you, Mr. Pennington. I truly believe, I'm not a business administrator. I mean, I don't know. I'm not even good with budgets half of the time. I just know how to see where money is allocated. But I truly believe like there is a gem in code enforcement for increased revenue here in the city. And I would charge you through Council President, through this council, to look at that like immediately. And with that being said, I want to recommend that the courts come before us about this item. Too many times we have asked numerous times for them to come before us regarding violations and tickets and thrown out versus not thrown out, to explain the process to the council and to the people who watch and who are here so that they know what is going on. We can hire 150 more code enforcers, and they can be out here running from place to place, killing themselves like they do already with the 50 that they have, if that's the number that they have right now. But if the courts do not work with them, do not help promote what we are pushing forward for here in our city, then we are back at start A with that. And so I truly believe it's with them. At the end of the day, they are the last of the last. They're issuing fine amounts and things like that. And those are things we need to speak with them about, because they can help us on the tail end of this get some resolution for people here in the city, and so that we increase the quality of life for people. So I am going to ask for them to appear before us. I come to all these specials every week. Hopefully they'll be here next week to speak with us about that, because it is truly with their department, I feel. I just want to thank Tommy again. I want to thank your staff. I thank you guys when I can't even say it to your face all the time, because you guys truly get out there and you help and you run, and it's not an easy job. I mean, sometimes I wish I was a code enforcement officer too, so I could help a little bit when I'm out there, because it's really difficult to take pictures. And I think Councilman Ramos brought this up too before about us issuing tickets. I'm not trying to put that on everybody, but if it was me, I stop and gotta get out and take the picture anyway, because every time I send a complaint, I send it with a picture so that they know exactly what I'm talking about and what's happening. And so if I could relieve that stress of having to send you the picture and just write a ticket right then and there, I would. Like, I just want to put that out there because it's a difficult job. And at the end of the day, I don't want to be taking pictures and writing tickets, and then when they get to the court, it's like you can pay $100 or it's dismissed. So at the end of the day, I am requesting that the courts come here and that the city, boost off code enforcement and the monies that can come in there. And I'm not trying to say let's go after, I don't want anybody to misconstrue my comments and say, oh, the councilwoman, because I'll hear this when I leave out of here, oh, the councilwoman want to go after owners and get more money from people. That's not my point. What I want you to do is do right by our city. I want you to make it look just like those places you drive out of the city to go shop at and spend your time at. If you put more focus in keeping it looking good here, then you would stay here more and you would be living in a great environment. And so that is what I'm charging to people, and half of them live here. So at the end of the day, that is what I'm saying, and I'm unapologetic about, doing that, because that is what we have to do to really push our city forward.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And the administration fully concurs and understands you're not advocating that we violate due process. You're advocating that we use the tools that we have to make sure that the objectives of this administration and this council will move forward, and that is to provide the best quality of life for the citizens that we can.
Madam
Councilman
President,
Ramos.
just one last point. I believe that as part of your planning process with this office is just more than just adding additional positions, right? Like we recently gave them the responsibility now to inspect, vacant apartments before they're actually allowed to rent apartments. So that's an additional responsibility. I really feel that some of the stuff that we've brought up here today, there could be an opportunity to create some kind of tracking system that would enable the residents, the council members to get feedback as to where this case is once it leaves code enforcement and ends up in the courts. There has to be, I think, a whole host of things that are developed to better assist residents who file complaints with the city regarding different quality of life issues. And, besides just additional staff, I really feel that Tommy and his folks need other tools to do their job more efficiently. And I would hope that this becomes a priority. We have a tendency in government to prioritize things based on crises. And I think this is an opportunity to prioritize something that's not necessarily presenting itself as a crisis, but it's something that's critically important for the city as we try to promote ourselves as a city that's on the rebound, that we're not going to be second-class citizens when it comes to how landlords treat our residents and also treat their neighborhoods. So I would be willing on the council side, I'm sure my colleagues would too, when it comes to budget season, to ensure that this particular office is a priority for us this year. And it's more than just additional staff. I think they need tools to enable them to do their job more efficiently.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam President, I'm going to have to leave.
Yes.
But just one thing under motions through your chair and the clerk. Where's the city with the resolution? And I drafted a resolution that I gave to the clerk regarding 5G technology. It appears that around the state of New Jersey, we have a bunch of municipalities, Jersey City being one of the initial ones, who have drafted, these resolutions that will enable these companies to come in and set up, 5G technology. I'm not sure where Newark is in that process. We're hearing from, obviously, some of the providers who are alleging that Newark is behind the ball here, that, other towns are jumping ahead. And with the infrastructure that we currently have in place as it relates to, technology, I don't see why we're not in a position to adopt this resolution quickly.
Sure, if I can address that. Eric Pennington, Business Administrator. Rob Thomas, who gave a presentation earlier on the stormwater utility concept, is one of the principal people involved in determining how we will move forward with 5G. The technology, as we understand it, is outstanding. It's going to give the opportunity for greater access, less drop calls, faster speeds, more data transmission, and the ability for these companies to make huge profits. We are in the process of making sure that we don't move too quickly and eliminate the amount of revenue that the city can generate as a result of where these nodes are placed and how they are situated throughout the city. The lobbyists for the 5G providers have done a pretty good job in New Jersey of limiting how much cities can charge for the services, and we are being careful to make sure that the residents get sufficient revenue for having these nodes placed all over the city, and we're trying to balance that against the services that the residents and the businesses will receive. I think we're moving forward with all deliberate speed, but taking into account that we don't want to be hosed. So we're working on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Thomas, do you want it?
Sure. Robert Thomas, Department of Engineering. And just to add to the BA's comments, yeah, he's correct, and how the FCC has created a regulatory process for telecommunications companies to get permits to build in cities, really kind of puts a disadvantage to the city. So essentially, we're going a little bit further than a resolution. We're going to be introducing an ordinance, and what that ordinance would do was to create a regulatory process and permit approval process for not only our existing, for fiber infrastructure layouts in the city, but also in the wireless as well. So what's happening is the companies are saying that, oh, we just want to be able to lay fiber or, in this particular community, and they're not telling us up front that they're laying fiber in support of 5G. So essentially, we're just trying to create a streamlined process for determining what technology will be coming into the city up front and be able to, as what the BA mentioned, recur some fees if possible for this new deployment, but also in opportunities where we can work with the telecommunications companies to potentially lay fiber, city-owned fiber. We're exploring that opportunity as well. So right now we're just creating a regulatory process and permit process to ensure that there are some mutual benefits to both the city and the companies.
Yeah, and Madam President, as you're drawing up, the regulatory side for the city, I would just add that if possible, that you consider creating, mechanism where if they are looking to install, these devices on utility poles around the city, that if it is a situation where they have to go into a neighborhood where we have like a historic designation, that they be required to get permission from the city's Historic and Landmarks Commission. We had a big issue in one of our neighborhoods in the North Ward with PSE&G, where they were able to utilize, state statute to basically, override the municipality's authority. And we want to make sure that we're cognizant of our own rules and regulations and allowing these folks to come in and submit an application and make sure that those applications, if it's James Street, if it's a Weequahic section or Forest Hill, that they do have to go to the Historic and Landmarks Commission first.
Yeah, that's something that we're considering. I mean, the benefit of, working with other cities around the country that have been quicker to adopt these policies, we're learning from them, their mistakes. So, in the language that's being developed right now and finalized, there is that requirement for seeking, approvals from, local historic entities as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, that concludes the conference meeting. We are now in the public speaking portion of this meeting. This is a 30-minute period in which speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak. When you step to the microphone, please state your name and address for the record. You will see a small timing device on the podium in front of you, which will begin counting down your time when you begin speaking. When you reach the 2-minute mark, the yellow light will illuminate, indicating that you have 1 minute remaining for summation. When you reach your 3rd minute, the red light will illuminate, and there will be an audible sound indicating that your time has expired. Please look forward to speak into the microphone. We are recording these proceedings, and if you turn away, we may miss part of your statement. Please address questions to the chair and not to individual council members. Is there anyone present that wishes to speak at this time?
Yes.
Good morning, Council. How are you this morning? Lauren Wells, 5 Washington Street, Newark Public Library. In the spring of 2018, Mayor Baraka appointed me to the Board of Trustees of the Newark Library, and this January I was voted the president. And I'm very excited about that, and those of you who know me know that it's an honor and it's a huge responsibility, and I take the role of being in the seat of the president of the library very, very seriously. Attendance is up 34%, computer use is up 24%. I know Councilwoman McIver is in the Springfield Library all the time. I see the pictures on the website. And I'm here to say that part of what I hope to accomplish in this role is to continue to elevate the profile of the library. The board is very focused on the branches and doing what's necessary to make sure that we are able to expand and increase the work in the branches, as well as to reopen the library and to extend the library hours. The council is always very supportive of the library. You know that our budget comes from the city, and I'm just here to let you know that you will be seeing a lot of me in this role, and that I hope that you all will come and participate in the events that happen in the library, at the main library, and at the branches more frequently, and that you will be accepting of any outreach that you get from me in this role. If there are ideas that you have, we would love to hear them. The library is essential to our families and to our communities. We serve the homeless population. There are people that are in the libraries every day on computers, filling out job applications, completing resumes, really utilizing the library as a way to advance themselves, advance their families, and support their children. And so as we move into a new phase, as you know, we're looking for a new director. The search has begun. I just am going to elicit your continued support and your collaboration in elevating the library into the public institution that this city deserves and that it needs to continue to be a part of all of the change that is happening. So thank you very much. I am under 3 minutes, and I look forward to seeing all of you in the library.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wells. Anyone else appearing? Mr. Clerk, before we close the meeting, I just want to share with the Newark community, coronavirus is alive and well. As I indicated earlier, I just returned from Washington, D.C., where the New Jersey League of Cities had a presentation on this particular unfortunate condition that's running rampant through our communities. And so I just want to say, first of all, it's real. It's not fake. It's absolutely real. And there are some precautions that we need to take as family members and as a community persons. Number one, wash your hands. Wash your hands. Wash your hands. That was presented to us by every expert who presented at the League of Municipalities. During the conference, there were other alternatives. Instead of shaking hands, bump shoulders, no hugging, no matter how much you love them. There was a new idea, a novel idea. In China, they don't even touch in terms of arms bumping. They touch toes, touch shoes. And that's their way of communicating. It's very serious. Newark has been blessed, and at this moment in time, we do not have any cases, so let's try to keep it that way. For those of you who are listening and watching, feel free to share the information. Most of the council members have on their counter information in English and in Spanish that gives guidance to how we're going to manage this unfortunate and unbelievable disease.
Council President, can I just make a comment? First of all, thank you for that. That is definitely something we probably need to make a announcement for leading up into the summertime about the coronavirus. But I just wanted to go back to thanking Dr. Wells, who appeared before us sharing information about the Newark Public Library. The Newark Public Library has been amazing to us, especially in the Central Ward community, the Springfield branch. We have been spending a lot of time there with the staff there, and even with the main branch as well. We're doing activities there. The library in the Central Ward, and I'm sure it's like that in many wards, is packed. There are a ton of children there, and I think that's really important to share to folks, because people think there's nothing happening in the city for kids sometimes, and we don't have anything going on, but there's a lot happening in our city for young people. You just got to be engaged and informed to get there and be a part of the things that are happening. The library is packed. Kids are chilling. They're, on the computers, reading books, doing activities, and I was actually shocked and surprised to see that when I visited the Springfield branch. I'm like, wow, it's a lot of children in here with their families too. The families are online, they are searching for jobs, doing research, whatever they may be doing, but people are utilizing our libraries, and I think we should promote more of what's happening at the library. I know I do, and I know some council members do, but it is a live and well place and very active, and so I just want to give kudos to you, to the board, to the library staff, because the ones I deal with, they are amazing. They really love their job. I never went to the library as a young person, so Jesus has worked on me a lot to this point. But it is amazing to see the good activity there and the participation rate. So definitely anything we can do to support you, and we'll continue to drive program in there and be active there. So thank you.
Mr. Clerk?
That concludes this meeting. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next week at the
Yes.
pre-meeting.